Alrighty, this is lesson 1.5 in Unit 1. So this is Thomas Jefferson and his beliefs of what the main responsibilities of government were. So looking at our learning intention and success criteria today, today we are learning how to analyze and interpret primary sources so that we can better understand Thomas Jefferson's perspective on what the goal of government actually was, what should it do, and maybe what shouldn't it do. And then what you need to be able to do after this lesson, the success criteria, is you'll know that you're successful when you're able to analyze and interpret Thomas Jefferson's first inaugural address and identify, 1, his views about the purpose and role of government in the United States, and 2, compare and contrast Jefferson's beliefs about the role of government and yours. Because the whole idea of government and politics is that everyone has a slightly different idea or belief of what government should and should not do. So this is really relevant to today because there's lots of things going on that a lot of people have really strong ideas about regarding government and what the government should do and shouldn't do. At the time that I'm making this video, there's a huge debate over just how much the government of the United States should do to restrict immigration and how to punish people who choose to come to this country illegally. Some people believe that the government should kind of be a little bit more lenient and not punish people. Other people want to build huge walls around the border of our country to prevent those people from coming in. So that debate of what exactly should the role of government be, what jobs should they, or what is their job, is really, really relevant whether you're talking back in 1801 when the document that we're going to read today was written, or right now when people are deciding whether or not we should completely ban immigrants from this country, or kick out people that are illegal, or do any of those examples. So really, like the last couple documents, the vocabulary here is pretty advanced, but the idea that Jefferson is trying to get across is pretty simple. He just uses really old school English to try to get his point across. So this is 1801. This is his first inaugural address. An inaugural address is the speech that a president gives right after they take the oath of office. They've been president for 5 minutes, and this is the speech they give, usually on the steps of the Capitol building in today's world. That really outlines what their vision is for the next 4 years. So this is Jefferson. This is 1801. This is, a couple minutes after he becomes president, and he tries to outline what he thinks the role of government should be in this new century, the 1800s. So he starts out, "Still one more thing, fellow citizens. A wise and frugal, or not wasteful, government, which shall restrain or prevent men from injuring one another, shall leave them otherwise free to regulate their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and shall not take from the mouth of labor the bread it has earned." That bread thing is going to come back as one of the questions today. I'll try to come back to it. "This is the sum of good government, and this is necessary to close the circle of our felicities or joys." So the goal here, he's trying to say, is the goal of any government that isn't wasteful is to prevent people from hurting one another and leave them free to actually live the life that they want to live. So just have enough control that people are able to kind of have the choice of what kind of life they want to live and what they want to do, which is kind of ironic because in 1801 we still had slavery in this country. So one of the things that we're going to get into probably in class is exactly who was he talking to if his whole goal is that people should have the right to figure out what they want to do without a lot of government interference. Does that make him a hypocrite? We'll have to talk about that in class a little bit. So the next paragraph, "About to enter, fellow citizens, on the exercise of duties which comprehend everything dear and valuable to you. It is proper you should understand what I deem, or what I consider, the essential purposes of our government." What is the main role of the government that he's going to run for the next 4 years? So then it kind of gives us a laundry list. So first, equal and exact justice to all men. Keep in mind it's 1801, and slavery is still in effect in half the country. So whether or not he's talking about all men is a whole another issue to debate. Second, of whatever state or persuasion, religious or political, peace, commerce, or business, and honest friendship with all nations. So making sure that we're friendly with other nations and we get along with, the other nations at the time, Great Britain or, France, those type of countries. Entangling alliances with none, meaning that we don't get involved with the drama that might be going on in Europe or in Asia. We kind of stay out of any conflicts that aren't directly related to what we're doing. The support of state governments and all their rights. So we're going to make sure that the state of New York, and any other state, can function as their own entity with enough, autonomy or their own individuality so that they can do what they know is best in New York versus what might be best in Massachusetts or Connecticut. As the most competent administrations for our domestic concerns and the surest bulwarks or defense against anti-republican or against the will of the people type of thing, tendencies. The preservation of the general government in its whole constitutional vigor to make sure that, the elements of the Constitution are followed. As the sheet anchor of our peace at home and safety abroad, making sure that there's safety here in the United States and that safety for American citizens exists when we leave our country and go elsewhere. A jealous or careful sort of revolution where peaceful remedies are unprovided, so to kind of resolve conflicts if needed. Absolute acquisitions of in the decisions of the majority, the vital principle of republics, from which is no appeal but to force, the vital principle and immediate parent of despotism. So ruler, making sure that there isn't a ruler that has complete authority, and making sure that the will of the people is followed. A well-disciplined militia, making sure there's an army that can protect us if necessary. Our best reliance in peace, and for the best moments, or for the first moments of war, till regulars may relieve them. So making sure there's a standing army that can protect us and serve as a kind of maybe as a example, or kind of a hint not to mess with us. And lastly, the supremacy of the civil over military authority, making sure that people are in charge versus like a military that's in charge. Economy and the preservation of public faith. Encouragement of agriculture, farming, and of commerce as its handmaid or helper. The diffusion of information and arraignment of all abuses at the bar of public reason. Freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and freedom of person under the protection of the habeas corpus, which is, something that exists in our country that makes sure that you can't be arrested without actually being charged with a crime, and trial by juries impartially selected. So the last couple lines here is Jefferson saying that really it's our job to make sure that people are treated fairly in this country. They are the rights of the accused are protected, and that government is kind of limited, and that your rights as a person is protected when you're accused of a crime. All right, so I told you I'd come back to this bread thing. So in your first question for analyzing the document is it asks you in the first paragraph, what does bread symbolize? It's a weird example, and if you flip back to page 13, in the first paragraph, it more or less says that government shall not take from the mouth of labor the bread it has earned. Well, what is bread? Bread is a food. Bread is used as an example here as kind of the things that you earn in life. You work hard at a job. You work your butt off. Maybe all the other people in your family work together and have jobs to make sure that your family can afford a roof over your head and can make sure that you have food that's being served at dinner each night. So that's kind of what the example he uses bread for, not as an example of food, but as an example of the wealth that you accumulate. So you work your butt off, you have a job, you earn money. That's what he's talking about by bread. It's the product of your labor, the money that you earn, the wealth that you accumulate. It's the job of the government to make sure that they keep that safe, to make sure that you have your house is protected and nobody can take advantage of you. All right. So the second question I ask you is to identify 5 things that Jefferson says that government should do, and 5 things that the government shouldn't do, which is kind of interesting, considering Jefferson's views on slavery and things of that nature. And then after you ask that question, or answer that question, there is kind of a different thing that I'm asking you to do in question number 3. It says, read each of the policies in the table below. For each policy, decide if Thomas Jefferson would have supported it or not. Then explain why or why not. So you're going to have to go back to the document about what he and read about what he believes are the roles of government. What should government do and what shouldn't it do? And then for each of these policies, figure out whether or not, based upon his beliefs in the document, if he would support, these decisions or these policies if the government were to institute them. All right. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully this video provided you with some clarity. Have a good day.